The stars were dying, and nobody knew why. Admiral Kang De-ho stood on the bridge of the human ship New Seoul, watching the empty space where Kepler Prime used to shine. 3 days ago, the planet had been home to 12 million beings from 6 different species. Now it was just cold rock floating in darkness. "Sir, we're getting strange readings from the debris field," said Dr. Lee Hanna from her science station. Her voice was quiet, like she was afraid to disturb the dead. "The metal shows signs of being eaten." Kang turned to look at the young scientist. Dr. Lee had joined their exploration mission 2 years ago, fresh from Earth's best universities. She was smart, maybe too smart for her own good. "Eaten? What do you mean?" "The molecular structure is wrong. Like something took apart the metal atom by atom and put it back together differently." Lee's hands moved quickly over her controls. "I've never seen anything like this." The New Seoul was far from home. Earth and its colonies sat on the other side of the Barrier Nebula, a thick cloud of gas and strange energy that made travel difficult. Only a few human ships had made it through to this part of the galaxy, where hundreds of alien species lived together in something called the Galactic Confederation. Most of those species thought humans were primitive. Their ships were smaller, their weapons older, their technology simple compared to the wonders of Confederation science. The aliens were polite about it, but Kang could see it in their eyes whenever they met. They saw humans as backward children playing with dangerous toys. Maybe they were right. The New Seoul was an exploration ship, not a warship. It carried scientists and diplomats, not soldiers. Its weapons were basic, just enough to deal with pirates or asteroids. Nothing like the advanced energy weapons and defensive shields that Confederation ships used. But Kang had been in wars before. Real wars, where people died and planets burned. Most of the aliens in the Confederation had never seen a real war. They settled their problems with talks and trade agreements. Violence was something they read about in history books. "Captain Park, get your fighters ready," Kang said into his communicator. "Something's not right here." Captain Park Tae-min was young for a fighter squadron leader, but he was good. Very good. He had grown up on Earth during the Unification Wars, when the planet's different nations had fought each other with everything they had. Park had learned to fly in battles where one mistake meant death. "Yes, sir," Park's voice came back. "How many fighters do you want in the air?" "All of them." Park didn't ask why. Good officers never did. Within minutes, 12 small fighter ships launched from the New Seoul's hangar bay. They spread out in a defensive pattern around the larger ship, their pilots alert and ready. That's when the black ships appeared. They came out of empty space like nightmares made real. Huge, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. Their hulls looked organic, like they had been grown instead of built. Strange spines and tendrils moved along their surfaces, reaching toward the human ship. "Confederation emergency frequency," Kang ordered. "Tell them we have unknown hostiles at Kepler Prime." But before his communications officer could send the message, the black ships attacked. The first enemy vessel fired something that wasn't quite a laser and wasn't quite a projectile. It hit one of Park's fighters, and the small ship simply came apart, its pieces drifting away like leaves in the wind. "Evasive maneuvers," Park shouted over the radio. "These things are fast." The alien ships moved like living creatures, twisting and turning in ways that shouldn't have been possible. They flowed around the human fighters like water, striking, with tentacle-like weapons that could bend space itself. But Park and his pilots had learned to fight in Earth skies, where the enemy was always faster, always had better technology, always outnumbered them. They had learned to survive by being smarter, more vicious, more willing to take risks than anyone else. "Delta formation," Park called. "Hit them from 3 sides. Don't let them group up." The human fighters split apart and came at the black ships from different angles. Their weapons were simple kinetic cannons that fired metal slugs at very high speed. Old technology. the Confederation had said. Primitive. But the metal slugs punched through the alien ships' hulls like they were made of paper. The black ships had been designed to fight Confederation vessels with their energy shields and complex defensive systems. They had never faced something as simple and brutal as a chunk of metal moving at 30% of light speed. One alien ship exploded in a ball of green fire, then another. Park's fighters moved like a pack of wolves, coordinating without words, each pilot knowing exactly what the others would do. "Sir," Dr. Lee called out, her voice excited and scared at the same time. "These ships, they're not like anything in our databases. The hull material, the way they move, it's all organic, like they're alive." Kang watched his fighters tear apart enemy ships that were 3 times their size. The aliens had better technology, but they fought like they expected their enemies to be polite. They used complex attack patterns that looked beautiful but left them exposed. They hesitated when they should have struck, retreated when they should have advanced. His pilots fought like they always had, with no rules except survival. They used the enemy's size against them, darting in close where the big ships couldn't bring their main weapons to bear. They targeted weak points with surgical precision, hitting the same spot over and over until something important broke. In 30 minutes, it was over. 12 black ships destroyed, their debris floating among the wreckage of Kepler Prime. 1 human fighter lost. 11 returning to the New Sol with minor damage. "Get me a full scan of those wrecks," Kang ordered. "I want to know everything about these things." Dr. Lee was already working, her instruments reaching out to examine the alien remains. "Sir, this is incredible. The ships are biological constructs, but with mechanical components integrated at the cellular level. It's like someone built machines, out of living tissue. Are there any survivors?" "No, sir. When the ships died, everything on them died too. They're connected somehow, like parts of a larger organism." Kang stared at the view screen, thinking. The Confederation had lost an entire star system to these creatures in a matter of hours. Their advanced weapons and shields had been useless, but a small group of human fighters with simple weapons had destroyed a dozen enemy ships without breaking a sweat. "Communications. Get me Admiral Chen at Confederation Command. Priority 1. The communications officer tried for several minutes before shaking his head. "Sir, I can't reach anyone. The entire Confederation network is dark." "Dark?" No signals, no responses. It's like every Confederation ship and station just stopped talking. Kang felt something cold settle in his stomach. If the Confederation was silent, it meant one of 2 things. Either their communications network had been destroyed, or there was nobody left to answer. "Plot a course for Earth," he said quietly. "Best possible speed." "Sir?" his navigation officer asked. "That will take us through the barrier nebula. We might not make it. We're going home." "Lieutenant, Earth needs to know what's coming." As the New Sol turned toward distant Earth, Kang wondered if they would make it in time. These black ships, these living machines, had destroyed a planet in hours. How many worlds would die while he raced through space to warn his people? Behind them, the wreckage of Kepler Prime continued to drift in the darkness. Among the debris, something small and black detached itself from a larger piece and began moving toward the inner systems of the galaxy. The hunt had begun. The journey home was a nightmare of running battles and desperate escapes. Admiral Kang stood in the New Sol's medical bay, watching Dr. Lee work on tissue samples from the black ships. Her hands shook slightly as she prepared another slide. For the microscope. They had been running for 6 days and none of them had slept well. "They adapt," Lee said without looking up. "Every time we fight them, they learn. The ships we destroyed yesterday were stronger than the ones at Kepler Prime." "How much stronger?" Kang asked. "Their hull armor is 30% thicker. Their weapons have longer range, and they're faster." Lee finally looked at him, her face pale with exhaustion. "Sir, they're evolving to fight us specifically, through The ship's hull, they could hear the distant rumble of the engines running at maximum power. Captain Park's fighters had launched twice in the last day to drive off enemy scouts. Each time, the black ships had been harder to kill. "How long until we reach the Barrier Nebula?" Kang asked. 18 hours at current speed, came the reply from the bridge. "But sir, we're being followed. 3 large contacts, staying just at the edge of sensor range." Kang nodded grimly. The enemy was patient, tracking them like a predator following wounded prey. They wanted to see where the humans went, what kind of defenses Earth might have. They were going to be very surprised. Lieutenant Colonel Jang Woo-bin was cleaning his rifle when the alarm started screaming. He had been expecting this for the last 3 days, ever since the new soul had entered the outer edge of Earth's solar system. "All hands to battle stations!" Admiral Yoon Sang-wook's voice echoed through the space station. "Unknown hostiles approaching. This is not a drill." Jang smiled as he loaded fresh ammunition into his weapon. Finally, some action. The defense platform, Guardian 7, was one of 12,000 scattered throughout the solar system. From the outside, it looked like a simple communications relay or mining station. The enemy would learn differently. "Sir, we have 3 large hostiles following. A human ship," the sensor operator reported. "They're big, Admiral. Each one is the size of a city." Admiral Yoon studied the tactical display. The human ship was the new Soul, Admiral Kang's exploration vessel. The 3 pursuing ships matched no known design in Earth's databases. Signal, the new Soul. "Tell them to proceed to Luna Station. We'll handle their friends." "Sir, should we alert the other defense platforms?" Yoon shook his head. 3 ships? We can handle 3 ships. He touched a control on his command chair. "Guardian 7 to all Sol defense platforms. We have visitors. Light them up." Across the solar system, hidden weapons systems came online. The asteroid mining stations revealed missile launchers. The scientific research outposts extended particle beam cannons. The communications relays charged their kinetic bombardment systems. The 3 black ships entered the outer solar system expecting to find a primitive world with basic defenses. Instead, they found themselves in the crosshairs of a military network that had been built over 3 centuries of constant warfare. The first alien ship died before it knew it was under attack. Kinetic rounds fired from hidden platforms throughout. The asteroid belt struck it simultaneously from 17 different angles. The massive vessel, larger than any ship Earth had ever built, came apart like a house made of cards. The second ship managed to raise some kind of energy shield, but it didn't help. Earth's weapons weren't designed to be elegant or efficient. They were designed to break things that needed breaking. Particle beams and fusion missiles pounded the alien vessel until its defenses collapsed and its hull cracked open like an egg. The third ship tried to run. It made it almost 3 light minutes before a kinetic projectile fired from a platform near Jupiter caught up with it. The tungsten rod, accelerated to 40% of light speed, punched through the alien ship from bow to stern and kept going until it hit an asteroid and turned it into dust. Total engagement time, 4 minutes and 37 seconds. "Well," Admiral Yoon said, settling back in his command chair, "that was educational." On Luna Station, Minister Kim Young-hee was having the worst day of her political career. The conference room was filled with alien ambassadors from 12 different species, all talking at once in their various languages. The translator systems were having trouble keeping up. "Please, honored beings," Kim said, raising her hands for quiet. "One at a time." Ambassador Veltar of the Antarian Republic leaned forward on his 4 legs. His insect-like features clicked rapidly as he spoke. "Minister Kim, you must understand. The swarm has taken 47 worlds in 2 months. Our combined fleets cannot stop them. We need Earth's help." "With respect, Ambassador," Kim replied carefully. "Earth has only a few ships in Confederation space. What help could we possibly provide?" The Altarian delegate, A tall being covered in blue-green scales made a sound like grinding metal. Your ship, the New Soul, destroyed 17 swarm vessels with minimal damage. Your Captain Park's fighters move like nothing we have ever seen. Your Admiral Kang thinks like a warrior born. Kim kept her face neutral, but inside she was thinking, fast. These aliens had watched one small human ship fight, and it had impressed them enough to come begging for help. They had no idea what Earth was really capable of. "How many ships could you send?" asked the Confederation's Supreme Admiral, a being so old its species name had been forgotten. It communicated through flashing lights under its translucent skin. "I would have to consult with our military leadership," Kim said diplomatically. What she didn't tell them was that she had already been consulting. For 6 hours, while the aliens argued and pleaded in her conference room, Earth's military commanders had been meeting in a bunker 3 kilometers below the Sahara Desert. Admiral Yoon had arrived from the Seoul defense platform, still smiling about the 3 alien ships his people had destroyed. He brought holographic recordings of the battle, which the other commanders watched with professional interest. "Sloppy approach," commented Admiral Choi Sung-min, commander of the 1st Reserve Fleet. "They came in straight lines, no evasive maneuvers, no scouting ahead, like they expected their size to intimidate us." "Weak point targeting was excellent, though," added Admiral Bae Hyun-ju from the 3rd Reserve. "Those kinetic rounds went exactly where they needed to go." Admiral Nam Ki-tae, the youngest of the fleet commanders, was studying the technical readouts from the New Soul's encounters. "Their ships are organic, partially alive. That explains the adaptation capability Dr. Lee reported, but it also means they have the same weaknesses as any living thing." "Such as?" asked Defense Minister Cho. "They can be poisoned, infected, made sick." Nam's smile was not pleasant. "My people have some ideas about that." General Park Min-ho, head of Earth's ground forces, looked up from his own reports. "What about their numbers? The aliens say they've taken 47 worlds. That implies a significant fleet strength." "Our intelligence estimates put the swarm at approximately 3,000 ships," Admiral Yoon replied. "Large vessels, heavily armed, but they seem to rely on overwhelming force rather than tactical sophistication." 3,000, mused Admiral Choi. "That's manageable." Defense Minister Cho raised an eyebrow. "Manageable? For Earth's active fleet?" "No, sir," Choi said. "For Earth's total fleet capability." There was silence in the room as everyone considered what that meant. Earth's active fleet consisted of about 300 ships of various classes. Respectable for a single world power, but not enough to fight 3,000 alien vessels. But Earth's total fleet capability was something else entirely. "How long would it take to activate the reserves?" Minister Cho asked quietly. Admiral Yoon checked his datapad. "The automated systems are already running diagnostics on all 11 reserve fleets. If we give the order now, full activation would take approximately 18 days. 11 reserve fleets," Dr. Shin Jae-wook spoke for the first time. As Earth's chief military strategist, his opinion carried significant weight. "That's 8,400 vessels, not counting the active fleet, against 3,000 enemies." "Unfair odds," commented Admiral Nam. "Yes," Dr. Shin agreed. "Unfair to them." Above them, in the Luna Station conference room, Minister Kim was listening to another passionate plea from the Confederation ambassadors. They spoke of billions of refugees, of entire civilizations facing extinction, of the need for immediate action. They had no idea that 3 levels below their feet, Earth's most powerful quantum computers were already calculating hyperspace routes for the largest military operation in human history. "Minister Kim," the Antarian ambassador said desperately, "we understand that Earth values its neutrality, but this threat affects everyone. If the swarm is not stopped, they will eventually reach your space as well." Kim nodded thoughtfully. "You make valid points, Ambassador. Earth will consider your request carefully." What she didn't say was that Earth had already decided. The only question now was how much force to use. In the bunker below, Admiral Yoon was uploading activation codes to communication buoys scattered throughout interstellar space. Soon, automated systems that had been waiting in the dark for decades would begin their wake-up sequences. Earth was going to war. Deep in the cold space between stars, ancient machines began to wake up. Commander Oh Yoonji felt the vibration through the deck plates of her engineering ship as the first reserve fleet started its activation sequence. Around her, automated systems that had been sleeping for 30 years were coming back to life. "Reactor core temperature rising," reported her chief engineer. "All systems showing green across the board." Oh smiled. The engineers who had built these ships had done good work. Everything was exactly as it should be, despite 3 decades of cold storage in the dark between galaxies. "Signal from the flagship," her communications officer announced. "Admiral Choi wants all engineering teams to report readiness status." "Tell the Admiral we'll be ready in 6 hours, Oh replied. "These old ships just need a little time to stretch their legs." 6 light years away, Admiral Choi Sung-min stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Iron Mountain and watched his fleet come alive. 800 ships in perfect formation, their running lights creating a constellation in the darkness. This was what he had trained for his entire career. The first reserve fleet specialized in siege warfare. Every ship was built heavy, with thick armor and powerful weapons designed to crack the strongest defenses. They had been created during Earth's expansion wars, when human colonies had fought each other for control of star systems. "Sir, all ships, report ready for hyperspace," his navigation officer announced. "Excellent. Signal the fleet. We jump in formation to Rally Point Alpha in 10 minutes." Choi had fought in the Martian Independence War 20 years ago. He had learned hard lessons about warfare among the moons of the outer planets, where mistakes meant entire populations died in the cold vacuum. He was not a gentleman, but he was very good at his job. Admiral Bae Hyun-ju preferred her ships, fast and deadly. The Third Reserve Fleet, nicknamed the Storm Riders, consisted of smaller vessels designed for rapid deployment and hit-and-run tactics. While Admiral Choi's ships were sledgehammers, hers were rapiers. "All squadrons report ready, Admiral," her tactical officer announced. "Hyperspace generators are charged and targeting computers are locked on." "Good," Bae replied, settling into her command chair. "Signal the fleet. Course for Rally Point Alpha, maximum speed. Let's show these aliens what human ships can really do." Bae was younger than most fleet commanders, but she had earned her position during the Titan Rebellion. Her tactics had saved 3 colonies from orbital bombardment, using nothing but a squadron of light cruisers against an entire battle fleet. Speed and cunning had won where heavy weapons had failed. In another part of space, Admiral Nam Ki-tae watched his ships power up their stealth systems. The 7th Reserve Fleet was different from the others. Their ships were painted black and carried equipment that didn't appear in any official records. They specialized in electronic warfare and operations that the government preferred not to discuss. "Stealth fields are active, sir," his sensor officer reported quietly. "We're invisible to everything except close-range scans." "Perfect," Nam replied. "Signal the fleet on quantum channels only. Course for Rally Point Alpha, silent running." Nam's ships had no official names, only numbers. His crews wore no unit. Patches carried no identification. They were Earth's shadows, the weapons that struck from darkness when the regular military couldn't be used. Dr. Shin Jae-wook stood in Earth's Strategic Command Center and watched displays showing the positions of all 11 reserve fleets. Each group of ships represented decades of military development and trillions of credits in construction costs. They were humanity's answer to an uncertain galaxy. "Sir, the Confederation observers are requesting information about our fleet movements," reported a communications technician. "They're detecting large energy signatures throughout human space. Tell them we're conducting routine military exercises," Dr. Shin replied. "Nothing for them to worry about." The truth was very different. Earth was preparing for the largest military operation in galactic history. When the reserve fleets finished their activation sequences, humanity would have more firepower available than any species had ever possessed. But that wasn't even the most impressive part. Sir, the fabrication centers are reporting completion of the new quantum communication network, another technician announced. All fleet commanders can now coordinate in real time across any distance. Dr. Shin nodded. The ability to communicate instantly across light years was what made Earth's military doctrine possible. While alien fleets moved like individual animals, human fleets could act like parts of a single mind. On Luna Station, Minister Kim was having another meeting with the Confederation ambassadors. They had been coming every day for a week, each time more desperate than the last. Minister, the swarm has taken the Altarian homeworld, Ambassador Veltar announced, his insect features clicking rapidly with distress. 8 billion beings are dead or missing. Our combined fleets cannot slow their advance. Kim felt genuine sympathy for the aliens' pain, but she kept her expression neutral. I understand your situation, Ambassador. Earth's government is still considering your request for military assistance. How long will your consideration take? The Altarian delegate asked bitterly. Another world dies every few days. How many more will you let the swarm destroy while you debate? Earth will make its decision soon, Kim promised. Very soon. What she didn't tell them was that Earth had already made its decision. The delay was purely tactical. Every day they waited. More human ships came online and the enemy's attention remained focused on Confederation space. Sir, Admiral Yoon is requesting permission to brief you on Operation Thunder, Kim's aide whispered in her ear. Kim nodded to the assembled ambassadors. Please excuse me for a moment. I have urgent business to attend to. She left the conference room and walked to a secure elevator that took her deep underground. Admiral Yoon was waiting in a briefing room with a holographic display showing the current tactical situation. Minister, all 11 reserve fleets are now fully operational, Yoon reported. We have 8,400 ships ready for combat, plus the 300 vessels of our active fleet. And the enemy? Confederation intelligence estimates the swarm has approximately 3,000 ships remaining, down from their original 4,000. They've been taking losses fighting Confederation forces, but those losses are slowing down as they adapt their tactics. Kim studied the tactical display. Red markers showed swarm positions throughout Confederation space, while blue markers indicated the locations of human fleets. The humans were scattered across a much larger area, but each group was significantly stronger than it appeared. What's the battle plan? Admiral Yoon touched a control, and the display changed. Operation Thunder, Phase 1. We deploy our fleets to strategic positions throughout Confederation space, using hyperspace micro-jumps to avoid detection. Phase 2, we attack every major swarm position simultaneously, preventing them from coordinating a response. Casualties? For them, complete destruction of their military capability within 72 hours. For us? Yoon paused. Minimal. The technological advantage is overwhelming. Kim understood what he wasn't saying directly. The Confederation had been fighting the swarm with ships designed for peaceful exploration and light policing duties. Earth's fleets had been built for total war between industrial civilizations. Timeline? We can begin deployment immediately. All fleet commanders are standing by for final orders. Kim made her decision. Execute Operation Thunder. Authorization. Code Omega 77. Admiral Yoon saluted and left to coordinate with his fleet commanders. Kim stood alone in the briefing room, looking at the tactical display. Soon the galaxy would learn what human military might really look like. Above her, the Confederation ambassadors continued their desperate pleas, unaware that salvation was already on its way. In deep space, Admiral Choi received his orders and smiled grimly. The Iron Mountain's engines roared to life as the First Reserve Fleet began its jump to combat positions. Behind him, 800 ships followed in perfect formation. Admiral Bay's ships were already moving, their sleek hulls cutting through hyperspace toward Confederation territory. Her tactical computers were calculating optimal attack vectors and target priorities. Admiral Nam's stealth fleet simply vanished from all sensors as they engaged their most advanced concealment systems. They would arrive at their targets completely, undetected, striking like ghosts in the night. Across human space, fleet after fleet began their final approach to battle. The largest military operation in galactic history was beginning, and the enemy had no idea what was coming for them. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth had spent 3 centuries preparing for war. The Battle of Sigma Draconis began with the end of the world. Fleet Admiral Ko Minseo watched from her flagship as the last Confederation defense fleet made its desperate stand around the system's dying star. 12 alien species had sent their remaining ships to this place, knowing it would probably be their final battle. 3,000 swarm vessels surrounded them like a dark tide. The alien bioships moved with deadly purpose, their organic hulls pulsing with strange life. They had grown larger and stronger with each victory, adapting to every tactic the Confederation had tried. "Sir, Confederation Command is broadcasting on all frequencies," Ko's communications officer reported. "They're requesting immediate assistance from any available forces." Ko almost smiled. They were about to get more assistance than they had ever imagined. "Signal all fleet commanders," she ordered. "Operation Thunder is now active. Execute Phase 1. Across a volume of space larger than most solar systems, 11 human reserve fleets received their orders simultaneously. What happened next would be talked about in military academies for the next 1,000 years. Admiral Bay's Third Fleet struck first. Her 800 ships dropped out of hyperspace inside the swarm formation, appearing so close to the enemy vessels that their hulls almost touched. The aliens had been expecting attacks from outside their formation, not from within. "All ships, weapons free," Bay commanded calmly. "Fire at will." The human ships unleashed their kinetic bombardment systems at point-blank range, tungsten rods. Accelerated to 30% of light speed, punched through swarm bioships like they were made of tissue paper. In the first 10 seconds of combat, 200 alien vessels simply disintegrated. The swarm tried to respond, but their massive ships couldn't maneuver effectively at such close range. They had been designed to fight at distance, using their superior numbers to overwhelm enemies. Suddenly, finding human warships firing at them from a few kilometers away left them helpless. "Phase 2, Admiral Bay announced. "Scatter and regroup. Let's give them some room to breathe." Her ships spread apart using micro-jumps, appearing at random positions throughout the battle space. Each ship fired, jumped, and fired again before the enemy could target them effectively. It was a tactic the Confederation had never seen before, and it was devastatingly effective. Admiral Choi's First Fleet arrived 30 seconds later, dropping out of hyperspace in perfect siege formation. His heavy dreadnoughts formed a wall of steel and fire that began systematically destroying everything in front of it. "Target their largest vessels first," Choi ordered. "I want those bioships broken into small pieces." The First Fleet's weapons were designed to crack planetary defenses. Against the swarm's organic ships, they were overwhelmingly powerful. Particle beams that could melt mountains cut through alien hulls like knives through flesh. Fusion missiles designed to destroy entire cities turned individual swarm vessels into expanding clouds of radioactive gas. Captain Lim Dong-hyun commanded the dreadnought Incheon's Pride, one of the largest ships in Choi's fleet. His vessel alone carried more firepower than most planetary defense grids. "Sir, enemy vessel attempting to ram us," his tactical officer reported. "Let them come," Lim replied calmly. All batteries concentrated fire on the approaching target. The swarm bioship was the size of a small moon, its organic hull bristling with weapon pods and defensive spines. It accelerated toward the human, dreadnought with the desperate fury of a wounded animal. The Incheon's pride fired everything it had. 20 particle beams struck the alien vessel simultaneously, followed by a barrage of kinetic rounds and fusion missiles. The bioship's hull cracked and split, its internal structure collapsing as it died. But even dying, it kept coming. "Brace for impact," Lim ordered. The collision sent shock waves through both ships. The Incheon's pride shuddered and listed to one side, its hull scarred but intact. The swarm vessel broke apart completely, its pieces spinning away into space. Damage. "Report," Lim called. "Minor hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, his engineering officer replied. "Nothing we can't handle, sir." While the 1st and 3rd fleets engaged the main swarm force, Admiral Nam's 7th Fleet was conducting a very different kind of warfare. His stealth ships had penetrated deep into enemy territory, striking at swarm command nodes and communication centers. "Target acquired," reported Commander Han from the stealth cruiser Silent Hunter. "Large bioship with enhanced neural networks. Looks like a command vessel." "Understood," Nam replied from his own ship. "Deploy the quantum virus. Let's see how well their organic computers handle a little digital infection." The quantum virus was one of Earth's most closely guarded military secrets. It was designed to infiltrate and corrupt any computer system, turning the enemy's own technology against them. Against the swarm's biomechanical hybrids, it was particularly effective. The virus spread through the swarm command ship's neural networks like wildfire. Within minutes, the massive vessel began firing on its own allies, its corrupted systems, unable to distinguish friend from foe. "Beautiful," Nam murmured, watching the chaos spread through the enemy formation. "Deploy virus packages to all priority targets. Let's give them something to think about." On the bridge of her flagship, Fleet Admiral Ko watched the battle unfold with professional satisfaction. The Confederation forces, who had been facing certain destruction, were now rallying as the human fleets tore through their enemies. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Admiral Kang on the New Seoul," her communications officer announced. Ko smiled. Kang had been the first to encounter the swarm, and his intelligence reports had been invaluable in planning this operation. "Put him through!" Kang's face appeared on the main screen, his expression a mixture of amazement and pride. "Admiral, Ko, your arrival is most timely. The Confederation forces were down to their last few ships. How are our allies holding up?" "Better now that they see what human military doctrine looks like in practice," Kang replied. "I think we've made quite an impression." That was an understatement. The alien crews watching the battle were seeing things they had never imagined possible. Human ships moved with perfect coordination, each vessel knowing exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment. Their weapons were simple but devastatingly effective. Most importantly, they fought with a level of tactical sophistication that spoke of centuries of real warfare. Dr. Lee, still aboard the New Seoul, was monitoring the swarm's biological signatures as the battle progressed. What she saw made her extremely worried. "Admiral Kang, the swarm vessels are starting to adapt again," she reported. "Their hull composition is changing in real time. They're trying to develop resistance to our kinetic weapons. How long do we have?" "Maybe an hour before they start showing significant improvements. But, sir, there's something else. The adaptation is happening too fast for natural evolution. They're getting help from somewhere." Admiral Ko heard the conversation and made a quick decision. "All fleet commanders, this is Ko. The enemy is adapting faster than expected. Accelerate the engagement timeline. I want every swarm vessel in this system destroyed within the next 30 minutes. The response was immediate. Human ships throughout the battle space increased their rate of fire and began taking greater risks to close with the enemy. The measured, careful destruction became a storm of violence that overwhelmed the swarm's ability to adapt. Major An So-young led the first boarding action against a swarm bioship. Her marine assault team used breaching pods to punch through the alien vessel's hull and fight their way to its core systems. "These things are definitely alive," she reported over the radio as her team cut through organic corridors that pulsed. like arteries. The walls are bleeding. Any resistance? Asked her commanding officer. Some kind of organic defense systems. They look like oversized insects with built-in weapons. Nothing my team can't handle. On had trained for boarding actions, against human ships where the corridors were straight and the gravity was predictable. Fighting inside a living vessel was like being inside a giant organism, but her Marines adapted quickly. They used explosives to blast through nerve clusters and severed the bioship's spinal connections. Within 20 minutes, the massive swarm vessel was dead, its crew compartments flooding with toxic gases as its life support systems failed. Target neutralized, On reported. Moving to secondary objectives. The battle was turning into a rout. Swarm vessels that had seemed invincible against Confederation forces were being systematically destroyed by human tactics and firepower. The aliens had never faced an enemy that combined overwhelming technological superiority with centuries of military experience. "Sir, enemy forces are beginning to withdraw," reported Coe's tactical officer. "They're falling back toward the outer system." "Let them go," Coe replied. "Signal all fleets to regroup and assess battle damage." The Battle of Sigma Draconis was over. In less than 4 hours, human forces had destroyed nearly 800 swarm vessels while losing only 12 ships of their own. It was the most one-sided space battle in recorded galactic history. But as the human fleets regrouped and began rescue operations for the surviving Confederation forces, Dr. Lee was studying her sensor readings with growing alarm. "Admiral," she called to Kang, "the swarm ships that escaped, they're not just retreating." The heart of the galaxy was dying, and something ancient was trying to save it. Fleet Admiral Coe stood on the bridge of the human flagship Terra's Might, studying the tactical display that showed the swarm's final stronghold. 12 artificial worlds orbited a dying star, each one larger than Earth and covered in the organic structures that housed billions of enemy creatures. "Sir, Admiral Yoon's reinforcement fleet has arrived from Earth," her communications officer reported. "He's requesting permission to join the formation." Coe nodded. Yoon had brought Earth's newest and most powerful ships, vessels that incorporated everything humanity had learned from 3 years of fighting the swarm. They would need every advantage for what was coming. Dr. Lee had spent those 3 years studying captured swarm technology and biology. Her discoveries had changed everything they thought they knew about their enemy. "Admiral," Lee said, her voice tired but determined. "I've completed my analysis of the central hive cluster. The swarm isn't just an invasion force. They're refugees." "Refugees?" Coe asked. "Their original galaxy is dead, consumed by something they call the Great Darkness. These 12 worlds contain the last survivors of an entire galactic civilization. They're not trying to conquer us, they're trying to save themselves." Coe felt a heavy weight settle in her stomach. "How many beings are we talking about?" "Approximately 400 billion individuals, plus their central consciousness that coordinates the entire species." The bridge fell silent as everyone processed this information. They had been preparing to destroy what might be the last remnants of an entire galactic civilization. "There's more," Lee continued. "I've developed a way to communicate with their central consciousness. We might be able to find a solution that doesn't require genocide." Admiral Yoon's voice came over the communication system. "All fleet commanders, this is Yoon. We are ready to begin the final assault. Operation Final Dawn is authorized to proceed." Coe hesitated. She had 8,000 ships under her command, enough firepower to crack planets and shatter moons. The weapons they carried could end the swarm threat permanently within hours. But Dr. Lee was offering another path. "Open a channel to all fleet commanders," Coe ordered. "I want to brief them on Dr. Lee's discoveries before we proceed." Within an hour, the senior commanders of Earth's expeditionary force were gathered in a virtual meeting space. Admiral Choi attended from his flagship, along with Admirals Bay, Nam, and the others who had fought through 3 years of war to reach this moment. Commanders, Ko began, Dr. Lee has made a discovery that changes the nature of our mission. The swarm may not be the enemy we thought they were. She outlined Lee's findings about the swarm's origin and their status as galactic refugees. The response from her commanders was mixed. "With respect, Admiral," said Admiral Choi, "refugees or not, they've killed billions of Confederation citizens. They've destroyed entire worlds. We can't ignore that. But we also can't ignore the possibility of finding a better solution," replied Admiral Bay. "If we can end this without committing genocide, shouldn't we try?" Admiral Nam was more practical. "What exactly is Dr. Lee proposing? We can't just ask them to stop fighting and hope they listen." Dr. Lee took over the briefing. "I've developed a quantum virus that can interface with their central consciousness. Instead of destroying it, we could use it to fragment their hive mind into individual personalities. Give them the capacity for choice instead of forcing them to follow collective programming." "And if it doesn't work?" asked Admiral Yoon. "Then we proceed with the original plan," Ko replied grimly. "Operation Final Dawn continues as scheduled." The vote was close, but the fleet commanders agreed to try Lee's approach first. If they could save both the galaxy and the swarm, it was worth attempting. Captain Lim piloted the Incheon's Pride through the outer defenses of the Hive cluster. His dreadnought carried Dr. Lee and her experimental quantum virus in a specially shielded compartment. Getting close enough to the central consciousness to deploy it would require penetrating 12 layers of biological defenses. "Sir, enemy bioships are moving to intercept," his tactical officer reported. "These ones look different from anything we've seen before." Lim studied the sensor readings. The swarm had spent 3 years adapting to human tactics and technology. These new vessels incorporated elements clearly derived from captured human ships, combined with their own organic technology in ways that shouldn't have been possible. "They've learned too much," Lim muttered. "All batteries, engage the lead vessels. Let's see what they can do." The enhanced swarm ships proved to be formidable opponents. Their hulls absorbed kinetic impacts and regenerated from energy weapon damage. They moved with the fluid grace of living creatures, but fought with the tactical precision of military machines. "Sir, our weapons are having minimal effect," reported the tactical officer. "They've developed countermeasures for everything we're throwing at them." "Then we'll have to get creative," Lim replied. "Signal the Marine assault teams. Prepare for boarding actions." Major An led her Marines in the most dangerous mission of the war. Instead of boarding enemy ships to destroy them, they were infiltrating swarm vessels to plant relay nodes for Dr. Lee's quantum virus. "These corridors are different," An reported as her team moved through the organic passages of a swarm bioship. "They're not just alive, they're intelligent. The ship is trying to guide us away from critical areas." "Can you reach the neural core?" asked Dr. Lee over the radio. "Working on it," An replied, using plasma charges to blast through a wall that had tried to seal itself against her team. "These things definitely don't want us here." Fighting through the ship's immune system and biological defenses, An's Marines finally reached the central neural core. It pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that hurt to look at directly, like staring into the dreams of an alien mind. "Relay node is in place," An reported. "Dr. Lee, you're connected to their network." What happened next changed the course of galactic history. Dr. Lee had spent years learning to communicate with swarm technology, but interfacing directly with their central consciousness was like trying to have a conversation with a force of nature. The alien mind was vast, ancient, and filled with memories of a dead galaxy. "Why do you persist in resistance?" the consciousness asked, its thoughts flowing directly into Lee's mind. "Your galaxy is already dying. We seek only to preserve what can be saved." "Our galaxy is alive," Lee replied. "Your people are destroying it. Preservation requires sacrifice. Individual lives matter less than species survival." Lee understood then why the swarm had been so ruthless. Their hive mind, literally, could not comprehend the value of individual existence. Every decision was made for the collective good, even if it meant destroying billions of beings. What if there was another way? Lee asked. What if your people could survive without destroying ours? The consciousness paused, processing this concept. Impossible. Resources are finite. Space is limited. Only the strongest can survive. But what if each of your people could choose for themselves? What if they didn't have to follow collective commands? Lee activated her quantum virus. Instead of destroying the swarm's central consciousness, it began, fragmenting it into billions of individual personalities. For the first time in their species' history, each swarm entity became capable of independent thought. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Across the hive cluster, swarm bioships stopped, firing on human vessels. Billions of individual minds suddenly awakened to find themselves making their own decisions for the first time. Some chose to continue fighting, driven by programmed instincts they couldn't overcome. But others chose differently. They chose to communicate, to negotiate, to seek understanding instead of destruction. The war didn't end in a single moment. It took months of careful negotiation and gradual integration. Many swarm entities chose to settle on dead worlds in empty star systems, using their biological technology to transform lifeless rocks into garden worlds. Others chose mortality, accepting limited lifespans in exchange for true individual existence. Some even chose to integrate with Confederation society, their unique perspectives and abilities enriching the galactic community. Admiral Ko stood on the observation deck of Luna Station, looking out at Earth's blue skies and thinking about the cost of peace. The war had taken a heavy toll in lives and resources, but it had also taught the galaxy valuable lessons about cooperation and understanding. Minister Kim joined her at the viewing window. The Confederation Council has officially recognized Earth as the dominant military power in the galaxy, she reported. They're offering us a permanent seat on the ruling council and territorial concessions throughout 3 spiral arms. And what did you tell them? That Earth is honored by their offer, but we prefer to remain an independent power. We'll defend the galaxy when necessary, but we won't rule it. Ko nodded approvingly. Humanity had proved it could win any war, but the greater victory was knowing when not to fight. 5 years later, Admiral Kang stood before a memorial wall at Sigma Draconis. The names inscribed there included not just human casualties, but every being lost in the war, including former swarm entities who had chosen to die rather than live as individuals. Captain Park, now an admiral himself, joined Kang at the memorial. "Do you think we made the right choice?"